This is John, and I'm here to tell you some more stories about my adventures on the good boat Ragdoll with Rosie and Jim. And the first of my stories is A Day at the Seaside. The Ragdoll was on her way. Jim looked out of the hatch. "What can you see?" said Rosie. A man with a dog," said Jim. "Nothing else, Noggin?" "Listen," said Jim. "Ducky's quacking." "Quick," said Rosie. "Follow John." Rosie and Jim followed me, along a grassy path, round by a letterbox, over a sandy hill, and then they all stopped. "Look," said Jim. "Super fizzy," said Rosie. "What is it?" said Jim. "Greeny blue stuff." The sea at last," I said. "It's the sea," said Rosie. "There's a lot of it," said Jim. Rosie and Jim followed me across the sand. "It goes all the way," said Rosie, "to the end of the world." I walked along the beach. "What a lot of water," said Jim. "What a lot of people," said Rosie. I met some friends. "Fancy meeting you here," they said. The children were building sandcastles. "Can I help?" I said. I didn't notice that Rosie and Jim had joined in. What a wonderful castle they built. It had towers and gates and rooms and a secret tunnel. It had a moat all round it and 2 canals going all the way across the sand to the sea. The waves lapped at the end and sent little waves down the canals, making the toy boats rock to and fro. I said, "I can't remember building all that." Oh, how Rosie and Jim rolled in the sand and poked each other and laughed. I could never guess who had built so much of the castle, but the children knew. When the sun was low over the sea, the mother said, "Time to go home." "Oh," said the children, "but we'll come again tomorrow. Hooray!" "I'm not going home," said Rosie. "What?" said Jim. "I'm staying here. I'm going to live in this lovely sandcastle," said Rosie. "But," said Jim, "it's much nicer than the poky old rag doll." "Oh, but," said Jim, "you can go back if you like, but I'm staying here for ever and ever." "Oh," said Jim, "then I'll stay with you." Rosie and Jim hid in a room of the sandcastle until everyone had gone. They looked out. It was going dark. The wide sands were empty now. "Rosie," said Jim. "What, Noggin?" It's lonely here with no Fizgog." "Oh, Noggin. And we can't find our way back to the rag doll." "We don't want to. It's nicer here," said Rosie. "Is it?" "Yes, it is," said Rosie. "And we're not going to be silly fizzpots and feel lonely. We're going to find a nice place to sleep in our lovely new castle." They crept about in the dark and found a place to sleep. They made sand beds for themselves. "Oh, my bed's too hard," said Jim. "Oh, don't be a soft noggin," said Rosie, "and go to sleep." Jim tried to sleep, but he could not. There were so many sounds that kept him awake. They were trickling and rippling and running sounds that came nearer and nearer. The sounds of water creeping along the sand canal and filling the moat deeper and deeper. The sounds of the waves coming closer and closer. Jim whispered in the dark, "Rosie! Rosie!" Rosie sounded cross. "What is it, Noggin?" "Can you hear?" "What?" "Listen." "It's only water. You've heard plenty of that before on the old rag doll." "But the water stays in one place on the canal. It moves about here." "Well, pop your head out and have a look." Jim popped his head out and looked over the sand wall of the castle. What a fright he had. "Rosie! Rosie is coming!" "What's coming, Fizbait?" "The sea is coming to get us." "Rubbish and pipkins, it's a long way away." "It was, but it isn't now. Look, Rosie, see for yourself." Rosie looked out. The sea was lapping at the walls of the castle. As they watched, a bigger wave came and knocked down all the front wall. The water flooded in. "Run!" shouted Rosie. Rosie and Jim ran. The water reached across the sand as though trying to catch them. They looked back and saw a big wave knocking their sandcastle down. More waves came and smoothed the ruins over. Soon there was nothing there but smooth sand and water that became deeper and deeper as they watched. "Oh, Rosie, now we have nowhere to sleep and nowhere to live." Poor Rosie and Jim. They didn't know what to do. They huddled by a tussock of grass, trying to shelter from the cold sea wind. Then they heard a voice. "Now I wonder if I dropped it here." They saw a light. "Fizz-cog!" cried Jim. "Quiet," said Rosie. "Follow that light." "There it is," I said. I picked something up and put it in my pocket. I didn't see that 2 draggled rag dolls were following me. I was in a hurry to get back to my warm boat. Rosie and Jim were glad to see the rag doll. Jim lay awake listening for a long time. He could hear the lapping of canal water and the call of an owl. Perhaps far away he might just be able to hear a whisper of the sea, but it never came close. They were safe now. They were soon asleep. The next morning, Jim looked out of the window to make sure that the sea had not got into the canal. All was well. The water was where it always was. When Rosie woke up, Jim said, "It's best on the old rag doll, isn't it, Rosie?" Rosie just said, "Noggin," and gave Jim a hug.